Have you ever been punished for doing the right thing? Maybe you stood up for truth, stayed honest when others weren't, and somehow it still cost you something. That's what happened to a man named Daniel thousands of years ago. He didn't break any law. He didn't hurt anyone. In fact, he was known for being wise, honest, and loyal. But one day those very qualities put his life in danger. This is the story of Daniel in the lion's den, a story about integrity, courage, and a faith that stood firm when the world tried to tear it down. Daniel wasn't born in Babylon. He was taken there, years earlier, when his homeland Jerusalem was conquered. He grew up as a foreigner in a strange land, surrounded by different gods, new customs, and a culture that didn't share his faith. But from the beginning, Daniel made a quiet decision. He would stay faithful to the God who never left him. Over the years, Daniel's character caught the attention of kings. He served under multiple rulers, and each one saw something different about him. He wasn't manipulative. He wasn't greedy. He didn't play political games. He was simply steady, wise, humble. By the time of King Darius, Daniel was one of the most trusted officials in the entire empire. And that's saying something, because this was a kingdom that stretched across nations. King Darius planned to make Daniel second in command, to oversee the entire government. But power, as it often does, stirred up jealousy. In the royal court, there were others, men who saw Daniel's favor with the king and couldn't stand it. They whispered among themselves, "Why him? He's not even one of us. He's an exile, a foreigner." So they started digging for dirt. They watched his every move, checked his records, listened for gossip. But Daniel's life was clean. He didn't take bribes. He didn't bend the rules. He didn't do anything wrong. Finally, one of them said, "We'll never find any charge against this man unless it has to do with his God." That's when their scheme began to take shape. They went to King Darius with flattery. "Your Majesty, you are so great that no one should pray to any god or man except you for 30 days. It will show your people's loyalty." The king, caught up in their words, didn't realize the trap. He signed the decree. It became law. And in the Persian Empire, once a law was sealed, not even the king himself could undo it. Daniel heard the news. He knew exactly what it meant. The law said, anyone who prays to any god except the king will be thrown into the lion's den. But Daniel didn't change his routine. He went home. He opened his windows, facing Jerusalem, as he always did, and he prayed. There's something beautiful about that moment. No protest, no panic, no compromise, just quiet faithfulness. Daniel wasn't trying to make a statement. He was just being who he'd always been, a man who trusted God above everything else. And of course, those men were watching. They burst into his home, caught him mid-prayer, and ran straight to the palace. They told the king, "Your Majesty, didn't you sign a law saying that anyone who prays to any god except you must be thrown into the lion's den?" The king nodded. "Then Daniel, one of the exiles, has broken it. He still prays to his God." When King Darius heard this, his heart sank. He wasn't angry at Daniel. He admired him. He suddenly realized he'd been tricked, but there was nothing he could do. All day, the king searched for a loophole, a way to save Daniel. But the law was clear, and the same men who set the trap reminded him, "Remember, O king, the law of the Medes and Persians cannot be changed." As the sun began to set, the order was given. Imagine that walk. Daniel, this faithful, aging man, is being led through torch-lit corridors toward a dark pit. He'd served this kingdom faithfully his entire life, and now it was about to throw him away. The king walked with him, heavy-hearted, guilt written on his face. He turned to Daniel and said quietly, "May your God, whom you serve so faithfully, rescue you." And with that, Daniel was lowered into the lion's den. The entrance was sealed, a royal stamp pressed into clay, final, unbreakable. And then silence. That night, King Darius couldn't sleep. He refused food, music, company, and everything. All he could think about was Daniel. Would God really save him? Could he? In that pit, Daniel was surrounded by hungry lions. Their breathing filled the space. Their eyes glowed in the dim torchlight. But Daniel didn't run. He didn't shout. He prayed, and God sent his angel. The lions' growls softened. Their fierce eyes dimmed. One by one, they lay down, quiet, calm, as if sleep had taken over. Daniel sat there, surrounded by peace in a place meant for death. The hours crawled by. The king couldn't eat, couldn't rest. He kept replaying Daniel's words in his mind. He'd seen Daniel's faith, not loud, not proud, but steady. And now in the silence of the night, Darius began to wonder if Daniel's God was real, if he truly could protect him. Sometimes the hardest part of faith isn't the test itself, it's the waiting in the dark. At first light, Darius ran to the den. He didn't walk, he ran. When he reached the entrance, his voice shook as he called out, "Daniel, servant of the living God, has your God, whom you serve so faithfully, been able to rescue you from the lions?" For a moment there was silence. Then a voice echoed from the pit, "Your Majesty, may you live forever. My God sent his angel, and he shut the lions' mouths. They have not hurt me, because I was found innocent before him and before you." The king froze, then smiled. He shouted for the stone to be rolled away. And when Daniel emerged, there wasn't a single scratch on him. He was calm, unharmed, alive. King Darius ordered Daniel's accusers to be punished for their deceit, and the same lions that had spared Daniel devoured them instantly. Justice was served. Then the king issued a new law, one unlike any before. He declared to every nation, every tribe, every tongue under his rule, "I decree that everyone must fear and honor the God of Daniel, for he is the living God, and his kingdom will never be destroyed. He rescues and saves. He performs signs and wonders in heaven and on earth. He has rescued Daniel from the power of the lions, and from that day forward, Daniel continued to serve faithfully, honored, respected, and more alive than ever." Daniel's story is one of courage, but not the kind that makes headlines. It's quite courageous. The courage to stay faithful when no one's watching. The courage to keep praying when the world says stop. He didn't shout about his beliefs. He lived them. And when the moment came, that faith held firm. Sometimes life will test us in ways that feel unfair. We might face our own lion's dens, moments of fear, moments of isolation, moments where faith costs us something. But Daniel reminds us that faith doesn't mean we won't face danger. It means we're never alone in it. When Daniel was surrounded by lions, he wasn't panicking because his trust wasn't in his safety, but in his God. And that trust became his peace. Maybe that's what courage really looks like. Not the absence of fear, but the presence of faith in the middle of it. So if you ever find yourself standing alone, doing what's right when it's hard, remember Daniel. Remember that sometimes the most powerful witness isn't loud words but quiet faith. And remember, even in the darkest den, God is still God. He still closes mouths. He still saves. He still keeps his promises. If this story touched your heart, share it with someone who needs courage today. And don't forget to subscribe to Light of the Word, where the stories of Scripture come alive with heart, hope, and meaning. Because sometimes all it takes is one story to remind us that faith still matters.